In the stillness that follows catastrophe, we discover the faintest embers of courage glowing in the most unlikely places. Occupied France, 1942, a land under the iron heel of the Third Reich, its people cowed by fear and suspicion. Amid this darkness, hope seemed a distant memory. And yet from London and Algiers, a voice persisted, Charles de Gaulle, urging his compatriots to resist. Into this void parachuted a man bearing neither uniform nor weapon, but something far weightier, the conviction that fragmented hearts, when joined, could overthrow tyranny. That man was Jean Moulin, codename Rex, de Gaulle's personal emissary and the unlikely architect of a united French resistance. Following France's crushing defeat in June 1940, Marshal Philippe Pétain's government acquiesced to German occupation. Within months, a puppet regime had supplanted the Third Republic, collaborating with Nazi authorities to suppress dissent. Across Parisian cafes, whispers of resistance were met with furtive glances and hooded threats. Militias, trade unions, underground publishers, and clandestine radio operators sprang up in pockets, each convinced of its own methods and suspicious of its neighbors. Yet the disparate groups lacked coordination. Regional Maquis bands struck rail lines without intelligence. Left-wing communists distrusted de Gaulle's Gaullists. Monarchists, socialists, and radicals eyed one another warily, haunted by old rivalries and conflicting visions for France's future. In this fragmented landscape, the very idea of unity seemed quixotic, perhaps impossible. Jean Moulin was neither soldier nor spy. Born in Béziers, educated in law, he rose to become a prefect, an administrator whose life was devoted to service and diplomacy. When Germany invaded, Moulin refused to collaborate. He fled to Britain, where de Gaulle recognized in him a rare blend of administrative skill, moral authority, and unshakable resolve. In October 1942, Moulin, now Rex, volunteered to return to France, charged with the near-impossible task of forging a unified resistance. On the night of December 1st, 1942, Moulin parachuted into the Limoges region. With clandestine radios and a handful of trusted couriers, he carried letters of authority from de Gaulle and Free French commanders. Among those letters were not orders to lead armed raids, but mandates to build bridges, to convene trade unionists, political leaders, and military network chiefs under one umbrella. Moulin's approach was meticulous and patient. By day, he visited factory managers, workers, and union heads, listening as much as he spoke. He treated each faction's grievances as valid, acknowledging the sacrifices of communist militants and the anxieties of moderate Republicans. By night, he slipped into crowded cellars where resistance cells met. Here, a mention of the general could provoke recrimination. Suspicions ran deep. Moulin responded not with indignation, but with empathy. He toasted his interlocutors' doubts as though they were old friends, using humor to dissolve tension. Gradually, he wove a tapestry of trust. By spring 1943, the vision of a Conseil National de la Résistance, CNR, took shape. This would be no rigid bureaucracy, but a living organism, pulsing with the lifeblood of France's political spectrum. Socialists, trade unionists, communists, radicals, Christian Democrats, and Gaullists alike were invited to the table. On May 27, 1943, representatives of 8 major resistance movements and 6 political parties gathered in an unassuming Parisian flat. The roar of Allied bombers echoed distantly, as though lending gravity to their task. Moulin, impeccably dressed and composed beneath the wavering gaslight, presided over the proceedings. One by one, delegates pledged to pool manpower, arms, and intelligence. They agreed on coordinated sabotage of rail lines and factories, shared radio frequencies, and even a provisional blueprint for post-war France. Welfare programs, labor protections, and democratic reforms to ensure that liberty and dignity would cradle the nation's rebirth. That first meeting ignited a spark. Within weeks, CNR directives rippled through France. Factories slowed production of war materials, rail disruptions hindered troop movements, intelligence on Gestapo operations flowed steadily to London. The resistance was no longer a loose assortment of cells, but a cohesive force. Success, however, invited danger. The Gestapo in Lyon, under SS Sturmbannführer Klaus Barbie, later infamously known as the Butcher of Lyon, escalated its hunt. Informers lurked in cafes, collaborators whispered betrayals, and safe houses were surrounded before dawn. Moulin understood the magnified risk. He pressed for heightened security, changing meeting locations and codes. Yet no precautions could fully guard against treachery. On June 21, 1943, Moulin summoned the heads of the key networks to a villa in Calouir, a Lyon suburb. Drawing rooms designed for bourgeois leisure became cages of suspicion. As delegates arrived, Moulin greeted each with a whispered affirmation, "Nous sommes ensemble." We are together. They discussed strategy, assigned new couriers, and examined maps. Unseen, a Vichy official, someone Moulin had trusted, signaled the Gestapo. In an instant, the Gestapo's trap snapped shut. Moulin's composure flickered only briefly. He squared his shoulders, met the advance of German uniforms with a cool, defiant gaze, and uttered no plea. At that moment, the unity he had forged became his shield. What followed was 11 days of savage torment. Lyon's Gestapo headquarters, later the Museum of the Liberation D-Day, housed Moulin in a damp, windowless cell. He endured beatings so precise they seemed choreographed, sleep deprivation, threats to burn entire villages, and psychological torments designed to extract the names of his comrades. The interrogators promised mercy, scrawled names on chalkboards, and promised leniency for cooperation. Yet through it all, Moulin remained resolute. Moved under guard to Berlin and then Paris, Moulin's silence remained unbroken. A notebook, hidden by sympathetic jailers, later resurfaced, filled with coded messages and reflections on unity and sacrifice. It revealed not despair, but clarity. Individual lives, however fragile, attained immortality when offered in the cause of liberty. In the pre-dawn hours of July 8, 1943, just over 2 weeks after his arrest, Jean Moulin breathed his last somewhere near Metz. Weakened beyond endurance, he succumbed to exhaustion and the brutal toll of his torture. Some accounts whisper that he greeted death with a soft smile, as though content that his work would outlive him. News of his martyrdom shattered the hearts of French patriots. Yet rather than extinguish the flame, his passing fanned it. Across clandestine radio waves, de Gaulle eulogized Moulin as the spirit of unity incarnate. Resistance fighters, maquisards, rallied with renewed ferocity, inspired by the memory of their unbroken leader. In 1964, de Gaulle oversaw the transfer of Moulin's ashes to the Pantheon, the first time a commoner was so honored. Monuments sprouted across France. Schools, streets, and medals bore his name. Yet his most enduring legacy lies not in stone or ceremony, but in the principle he embodied: unity amidst diversity. In an age of global challenges, climate crises, pandemics, rising authoritarianism, Moulin's playbook remains profoundly relevant. He taught us that no single faction holds a monopoly on virtue or vision, and that resilience springs from collaborative purpose. He showed us how to convene disparate voices, how to build trust by acknowledging each stakeholder's value, and how to maintain moral clarity while navigating moral ambiguity. Jean Moulin paid with his life for his belief in unity and resistance. In that ultimate sacrifice, he bequeathed to modern generations the template of collaboration under fire, the courage to stand firm when division would crumble us, and the faith that solidarity can transcend brutality. May our endeavors, whether in war or peace, be guided by his stubborn optimism, and may every ember of shared purpose ignite the conflagration of freedom. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more captivating stories from our past. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.